A fateful story intertwined with demons and humans, SBS drama Gwigung. As the tragedies of the past strike again in the present, and the boundaries between humans and demons gradually collapse, we meet a certain person. Yungap has already lost his destiny. The Immersive, who waited 1,000 years to ascend as a dragon, fell into the human world due to a single mistake and became a malevolent deity, constantly tormenting humans out of anger. Meanwhile, she, who was destined to be a shaman filled with divine energy since childhood, was caught up in the terrible fate created by Kangcheol and was wandering through tragedy. The meeting between Yeori and Yungap goes beyond a simple first love, triggering fateful events that completely change each other's lives. However, Yungap ultimately meets a cold death due to Kangcheol's scheme, and his body is taken by Kangcheol. Why did Kangcheol, who hated humans, end up trapped in the body of the very human he despised, feeling human emotions? And where will the emotions he first felt, excitement, sadness, anger, and fear, lead him in the future? From now on, we will take a deep look at the fateful story of the drama Gwigung from episodes 1 to 4. Episode 1: The death of Yungap and the possession incident of Kangcheol. The Immersive, who had waited 1,000 years dreaming of ascension, reveals himself to a human girl in that final moment due to a single mistake. In an instant, Kangcheol, who fell to the ground, became a malevolent deity, cursing humans in despair and anger. The still tried to take over Yeori's body, which was filled with strong spirit, but it failed due to the precious stone given by Yeori's grandmother. That anger constantly ruined Yeori's life, and she eventually tried to live quietly as an ordinary artisan. But Yungap returned once again. In his first love, Yungap tried to take Yeori to the palace, and that meeting begins to move fate once again. However, due to Gwichung's scheme, Yungap is killed, and as Kangcheol possesses his corpse, the boundary between humans and evil gods starts to collapse. Episode 2: Yeori and Kangcheol's entrance into the palace. The appearance of Palcheokgui. With the body of Yungap, Kangcheol and Yeori enter the palace to fulfill the king's command. However, within the palace lurked a more terrifying presence, the 8-footed demon. The 8-footed demon was targeting the king's son, the crown prince, and while Kangcheol tried to protect Yeori, she was determined to confront the demon in order to reclaim Yungap. In the meantime, Yeori falls into a well and is on the verge of losing her life, and Kangcheol manages to save her, feeling human emotions and pain deeply for the first time. Now, Kangcheol was no longer just a simple evil deity, he was becoming a being that had started to change. Episode 3: In order to retrieve the soul of Yungap, who was captured by the Palcheokgui, Yeori fights with all her might. Upon learning that Yungap had summoned Yeori to the palace to save the prince, Yeori could no longer give up on Yungap. Yeori tried to seal the Palcheokgui with a golden thread, but failed, and taking advantage of that moment, the Palcheokgui escaped from the young prince's body and possessed King Leejeong. It was a moment when the entire royal family was at risk of collapsing. Episode 4: The cooperation between Kangcheol and Yeori and the crisis of Prince Yeongan. Kangcheol and Yeori start to work together seriously, holding hands to stop the Palcheokgui. Kangcheol gradually adapts to the human body and emotions, accepting the collaboration with Yeori. Yeori suggests to Kangcheol that they fight together as a body partner, but Kangcheol, caught up in complicated emotions, struggles to make a decision. In the meantime, the Palcheokgui attacks Prince Yeongan, the king's half-brother, further deepening the conflicts within the royal family. A royal family stained by desire and incompetence. Now, Yeori, Kangcheol, and the remaining members must confront the darkness that threatens the royal family. Yungap was a brilliant secretary who enjoyed the king's trust. With his innate intelligence and sharp insight into the world, he deeply cared for the lives of the people more than anyone else and agonized over the future of the country. However, that shining destiny was tragically crushed by the greedy power of a man named Gwigung. Yungap, who ended his life with death, and in the midst of his death, the Immersive, Kangcheol, takes refuge in his body. As Kangcheol is trapped in the human body, he experiences for the first time the pain of hunger and the emotions of cold and fear in his body, heart, and bones. In particular, every time I looked at Yeori, an unknown emotion would rise from deep within my heart. A human to be hated from such a delicate person, still felt an incomprehensible warmth and sadness, along with an oddly desperate affection. Caught in confusion, will still be able to stay true to his original purpose and walk his own path until the end, or will he choose the path of being human? Yeori was a girl who was born with extraordinary abilities since childhood. However, the life she wished for was not grand. She simply wanted to live an ordinary day-to-day life. Even after her life was completely shattered by the curse of steel, Yeori persevered as a craftsman, dreaming of her own simple happiness. However, fate never left her in peace. The reunion with her first love, Yungap, and the tragedy of witnessing his death before her eyes did not break Yeori, even in despair. In order to reclaim the Yungap taken by Kangcheol, she once again steps into the path of the divine artifact that she never wanted. Going back and forth between love and resentment, hope and despair, Yeori fights tenaciously. Will her choice truly create a miracle, or should we invite another tragedy? King Leejeong, who ascended to the throne at a young age. He was a ruler with a stronger will and clearer beliefs than anyone else. Despite the interference of the powerful and the pressure from the vested interests, Leejeong dreamed of a politics solely for the people and the nation. However, the world was not as simple as his will. The emergence of the Palcheokgui, which aimed to swallow the royal family, and the reality of his beloved son suffering from madness caused Leejeong to reveal his thoroughly human weaknesses. Will you uphold the law of the land? Will you save your son? Enduring the pain of bleeding in between, this is Leejeong, who constantly sacrifices himself under the heavy name of a king. His anguish and conflict most vividly illustrate the weight of fate that a monarch of this era bears. Palcheokgui is not just a simple evil spirit, a being born from the deep resentment of the royal family, perhaps the gathering of hundreds or thousands of wrong souls. At first, it possessed the body of a young atom to cause a light phenomenon, and now it threatens even King Leejeong, gradually bringing down the entire royal family. The purpose of the eight-headed demon is not simply revenge. The fall of the royal family, the collapse of the nation, and a relentless obsession to repay the pain they once endured. He seeks to destroy everything. Can the fragile and strong Palcheokgui, standing at the center of the colossal disaster that will engulf the world of Gwigung, withstand this overwhelming darkness? Prince Yeori and comparison. Prince Yeori, the half-brother of the king. He was destined from birth not to become a king, yet he harbors a desire for the throne greater than anyone else. A wild and reckless character who constantly causes incidents and has become a disgrace to the royal family. And a woman who constantly plots in the shadows for the safety of the queen's children and her family. Sometimes driven by maternal love, and other times by a thirst for power, she drags the royal family into a quagmire. The deep gap created by desire and incompetence. The eight-legged demon has squeezed through that gap and has now become a disaster, shaking the entire royal family. The royal family is now in a position where they must fight against both internal enemies and external evil spirits, and that fight will be much more bloody than expected. Hidden clues and foreshadowing in the story. In the developments from episodes 1 to 4 of Gwigung, there were intricately hidden, subtle and meaningful clues and foreshadowing that a keen-eyed viewer could pick up on. The first foreshadowing is that Yungap's soul has been captured by the Palcheokgui. It suggests that not only has the dead soul been scattered, but it has also been captured by the evil entity known as Palcheokgui and is being used as part of its power. This foreshadows that in the future, Yeori will have no choice but to engage in a battle where she must stake everything to save Yungap, going beyond mere exorcism. The second clue is that Kangcheol cannot escape from Yungap's body. Normally, when a malevolent spirit or deity possesses a human, it should be able to leave freely or move around, but Kangcheol is completely trapped in Yungap's body. This suggests that it is not a simple possession, but rather that there is some kind of connection or fate intertwined between the human and the evil spirit. Steel may not be able to break free from this bondage without realizing true humanity or sacrificing something. The third foreshadowing is the true purpose of the eight-footed ghost, a determination to relentlessly destroy the entire royal family that cannot be explained by simple revenge. Seeing that the king, the prince, and even those around the royal family are sequentially targeted, it is highly likely that the Palcheokgui is not just a single vengeful spirit, but rather a collective of long accumulated wrongful deaths and a desire for revenge. The moment the horrific truths of the past that the royal family has been hiding are revealed, the true identity and intentions of the Palcheokgui will also be uncovered. The final clue is, who will be the next victim of the Palcheokgui? As the prince and King Leejeong have already been possessed in turn, the next target could be the contrast journal, or the ferocious Prince Yeongan, or it could be another unexpected figure, even Yeori or Kangcheol, who might get caught up in the curse of the Palcheokgui. These foreshadowings and hints are adding deeper tension and immersion to the story of the Gwigung that will unfold in the future. Dear viewers, please don't miss it and watch along with us. Upcoming speculations: the world of Gwigung that will unfold ahead will draw us into a much more intense and deeper emotional whirlwind than the events we've seen so far. First of all, will Yeori and Kangcheol truly be able to join forces and defeat the Palcheokgui? Until now, there have been many times when we couldn't trust each other and were wary of one another, but in the future, we will be forced into a situation where we have to rely on each other, risking our fates. In particular, the promise that Yeori made to accept the steel as her body. That promise may plant the seeds of new emotions between the two and bring about unexpected changes. What will happen to Yungap's spirit? Yungap captured by the 8-footed ghost. Even if we manage to rescue him, it remains uncertain whether he can return to the Yungap he once was. Perhaps, Yeori may have to completely lose the past Yungap and embrace something new. What choice will King Leejeong make this time? In the midst of his son's death, the crisis of the royal family's downfall, and his wavering faith in himself, the king is no longer a perfect monarch. Whether he will ultimately uphold the dream of reform or collapse depends on how he overcomes his human weaknesses. The 8-legged monster will not easily retreat. He will attack Yeori, steal, and the entire royal family with more cunning and persistence. No one knows who the next victim will be or what tragedy awaits us next. But what is certain is that the path that Yeori and Kangcheol must walk has only just begun. Dear viewers, make sure you don't miss the next story of Gwigung. The story of the Gwigung is now at a very important crossroads. The battle between Kangcheol and Yeori has become a journey that goes beyond mere survival, one that stakes their destinies. King Leejeong is also walking a lonely path, endlessly fighting with himself, deciding whether to protect the country or save his family. And in the center of the Palcheokgui darkness, that being, which seeks to swallow everything, will continue to reach out endlessly. Indeed, who will endure until the end, and who will be able to change their destiny? Dear viewers, this is where the real beginning starts. In the next review, until the day we meet again, don't forget to subscribe, like, set notifications, and please leave your thoughts in the comments. Please stay with me until the end of this fateful battle in Gwigung. Thank you.